And thank you for joining. I wanted to take a few minutes to share with you how to use the eIRB system. So feel free to ask questions throughout the session, and also there'll be a Q&A at the end where everyone can jump in and ask questions themselves. First things first, we have to log into the system. I am going to go into the test environment here. However, you guys will use your SSO. Once you've successfully logged in, this should be your landing page here. Obviously, we'll click eIRB. To look at your projects, you would go here. And that's the first thing I want to talk about. The way this is set up, you have projects, which are a filing cabinet and drawer for each of your actual activities, which are identified as projects. And within that file drawer, you have your activities such as applications for your initial application, modifications, continuing renewals, those types of things will be in the file drawer. But here we have projects. In this individual scenario, the individual has two projects, one that they're the PI on and another one that they are the actual co-investigator on. You may also have tabs over here for being a faculty advisor or being in any other capacities on actual projects with other individuals across the campus. The next tab I want to share with you is the actual forms. Now, been doing quite a bit in test mode here, but typically you will have the same tabs here. This one's awaiting my attention. These are unsubmitted applications that need to be submitted. These have already been processed from the draft stage and moved into a later stage. Those later stages could include going to the PI because the submitter might not be the PI. It could be going to a faculty advisor. And if this is the PI submitting it, it then could be going directly to the IRB. So those are the most important things to know about is how do you find your projects and how do you find your applications. Now, applications are X forms, and this system applications are considered X forms. So there's slightly different terminology here. So when you think of applications in this system, it is considered an X form. Now I want to transition to how we actually start an application. So you can go to any of the first three tabs here, but I like to go to Me and click Start Form over here to the left. From this position here, you would obviously just click on this button here. And I want to start a new application. So I'm going to start here. And what you should see is this. Now, I'll point out a couple things for you here. When it comes to the individual that is submitting the application, other than the PI, although it could be the PI, these types of individuals are called collaborators within the system. And this is where we want to make sure you understand the role of the individuals that are on the project are these four options here. This is what the actual collaborator or the submitter will have to identify for those they name as people on the project, what their access will be to view only, edit and manage, edit and submit. So that is critical to talk to your research teams about to ensure that you are getting the appropriate level of access. Now, one other thing I want to note here is that you can move through the application smoothly if you don't want to go in a linear fashion and just pick any of these components that you want to jump to, and you can fill that information in. Now, when you don't complete the application completely, you do want to go down to the bottom of each page where you will see Save for Later so that you don't lose all of your work that you've done, and you'll see that at the bottom of the page. At the top of the page, you will always have a next button as well as at the bottom. And that'll be once you complete this page or you've already completed and you want to just move through the actual application. Now, I am going to just walk through this application here and what we would actually do to move forward with submitting something. I will find an individual to identify on this project here. I'll pick Jillian. And over to the right, you will see the expirations and the actual trainings that she has completed. And these are black. If they're black, that means they're still valid. If they are red, that means they need to retake them so that they would be valid. Now, moving down, the submitter in this case or the PI is Jillian. She can be one of these three. If Jillian identifies herself as a student, then we will also be able to require a faculty advisor to be inputted here. Vice versa, if this were a faculty or staff person, they would not have to do that, but it would just require the identification here. Then you just simply put in any number here and move forward. Pick a department. Let's see. I'll pick this department. Uh, if this were a student project, then we more than likely pick one of these two. But if not, we'll just say we aren't doing that. Create a basic title there, whatever that might be. Um, Questions now start to get into the actual process of completing the application by giving information. And this first page is information that everyone needs to complete. Once we get past the first page, then we start to get into some of the other questions that are not required. But I'm just going to put in just some information here. It's just to put something in the box. And that's about it. Okay. I'm just going to randomly select a few things that we might be doing in this study. And depending on your responses, depends on some of the other questions that will populate. If this project was funded, I would go ahead and say yes here. But if not, obviously we wouldn't have to do this, but we would select from these options here, whichever one was applicable. But for this demo, we're going to come through this and say no. I'm also going to change so that we aren't going to do the interviews and we're not going to do online surveys. Let's say we're doing quality improvement records only. And we're going to make sure that we answer this, or we're going to answer all the questions accordingly. Main research site, you can pick wherever. In this particular case, we are going to select our university here. No big deal there. We'll say that it's not a multi-site. No one's going to be doing no reliances in this scenario. We'll come back to reliances and work through that as well. No VA involved. We'll come back to what that comes up with that. Will any part of this study take place outside the U.S.? We'll say that everything's going to happen here for this one. Go back. We'll say quality improvement here. We will say that it's not a systematic investigation and we're not contributing to generalizable knowledge. We're not involving humans directly, no devices or drugs, FDA regulated stuff. None of that. Test overall. Then we have a note here. Now, based on how I've answered these questions, this is already telling me that I do not meet the definition of research, and this does not need to be further completed as an application. We have enough information to submit this for the coordinators to review and verify that determination based on what has been submitted. So in this scenario, we can just skip straight down to the bottom, click next, and again, oh, I missed some things here. So I need to answer these questions here, and then I'll be able to do that. So OAD will say, yes, we did that. We will not need certificate of confidentiality. There is no contract here, and we don't need any of that. Okay. Now we'll select next, and boom, we're off to submit this. But I'm going to go back, and I'm going to change my answers to a lot of the questions so that we can now move in to look at something slightly different in regards to what questions will pop up to see a little bit more of the actual application. Now we will, let's see what we're going to change here. Let's just add interviews. We'll say we're going to do focus groups. And I don't know, let's say we're going to do a drug, get rid of this quality improvement here. We'll say the project is funded. When a project is funded, let's select one. We'll say an H here. Now we need to attach the funding documents. Basically, it works as any other such thing that you need to put in your system. So I have my test attachment here. And now what I need to do is just click attach. And once I do that, I now have my test attachment here. Then we move forward to the main research site. And if we say, no, we're going to go with K-12 schools or something. Now we have to name the school Red High School, Red Middle School. Letters of permission. So please click here to access the site permission letter template. If you need that, you can go directly there. If not, I'll just add my attachment here because if I don't add it, it will not allow me to move forward. So we'll attach that here. And then we can use the name of the file or we can select the name of the file. But I'm going to leave it blank here so that it will use it there. And just attach that. We're going to do multi-site next. So we'll say no to multi-site. Now we're not going to do Reliance here. No VA. We'll keep it all in the US. None of the above. Get rid of that. It is a systematic investigation. We are going to use generalizable knowledge. It does involve people. And we do have a drug device. What we'll say has this as well. It's this. And we will say no to the device question. Again, test overall, we'll just change that to 3 just because. Study personnel have completed the appropriate outside activity disclosure for internal faculty and staff. You can use the system in the portal. For those that are not faculty and staff, say for instance students, they will have to upload the form here and the document you can get from this link right here. And then we will move forward. But we'll say everyone here is a faculty member and we'll move forward. Service confidentiality, again, we'll say no here. There's no contract or agreement, but if there was, let's just say there was, it would be yes. And then we would indicate what type of agreement. We say a DUA here, and then we'll attach that agreement now. I'll go back and get my test attachment here and attach that again. And I will say I did not submit this to the Radiation Safety Committee or the Biosafety, and I'm going to click next. Will there be any additional UTRGV? We'll say yes to this. And once we do that, we'll identify who the person is. And this is for UTRGV people, so we'll just put in their names here. And we'll select this individual. Again, we now see her training is good to go. And the role on the project, let's say she's research personnel. And here we don't need to explain anything, but if you can explain there if necessary. The one thing you do have to do here is you have to click save. It's noted up here in red. Whenever there's information in red, please read that content. It'll be super, super helpful for you moving forward. Saving it, that means leaves that there, and then we can move on to adding someone else if we wanted to. We'll just add one more person just because. Let's say that Christy. Oh, and then we see Christy here has red, so her training needs to be redone. And we will make her co-investigator. And if there's any need for here, we can put that. And then we would just click save. Now we're going to move forward. I mean, the next thing we have collaborate with someone else from another institution. Let's say yes. This is for your collaborators at different institutions. We can just put their name here. We'll say Danny Jones. And he's from Big University. And he's going to do data analysis. I don't know. Statistical analysis. Let's just do data. All right, and then we'll just click save here. And then, they are added to the study. You can edit or duplicate here, but that's how you add an outside person. We are going to be adding the section where you can upload their city training in the next iteration of this. So that is soon to come. From here, if you weren't finished, you can hit save for later, but let's say we're going to move on to next. So we have provided all this information. We did say this was a clinical trial, so there should be a protocol. We'll go find one here, and we'll do test attachment. Put that on there, and we will attach it to the study. Brief, non-technical. We will blah blah blah. Attach it. You just definitely data attachment materials, but if you don't have them, they're not required here for this question. But I'll just pick with this one just to make sure that we have something there. Then we move forward. Will this project involve deception? Not in this case. So we're going to select no here. The data analysis. We will facilities here. Give it the small description here. Following that, subject FDA will say yes. Here's a little bit more information about what qualifies for the clinical research here. And we'll select yes to this question. Select all the applies. Yes here. Yes here. And yes here. Now, typically there will be a start number when we're working with clinical trials. So we will put in that number here. Hope I guessed that correct. I don't remember exactly how many digits there are for them. And then we'll go here and we'll just say none of the above. Direct benefit identifier, whatever that is. X, Y, Z. Same thing here. If there's social benefit, X, Y, Z, whatever that might be. Risk, you can select whatever applies here. I'm just going to randomly pick a few things and we'll just move forward. You would break down exactly what all that means from what you put up above, how you will minimize that. Procedures. Is there anyone else needs to be aware of? I will say no to this. And no to that. Then we will move forward. Let's say we got billing records, we got images and audio video recording. It will be coded and we will store it coded. PI and PI and go PI again and go PI again. Following that, we shall move forward. Confidentiality. Make sure we address this one. All right. And as you can see, we've done significantly more with this one than we did the other one that was actually not this involved. So because we picked a drug, it actually requires us to answer all these questions. If there's a device, there's some device questions for us to sort of pick here, biologics, so forth and so on. And then if there's none of the above, we would just move forward. But I'm going to just put something in blood pressure cuff. Let's see, BP cuff. Let's say it's significant. Let's say it's FDA approved, not applicable. We will describe what we were going to do here, whatever your my XYZ. Following that, we would address this here, which is dispensing of drug, device, biological, whatever we have. Oops. Storage, got to answer that question, how we're going to store this. Just go ahead and explain whatever that might be there as well. Then we go to the next portion here, device table. What did I forget? Got to click save. And that should be it. We'll say no to this one. And we'll go next. Say yes. If you say yes, we have to answer these questions. We go back and say no. Go next here. No there. This one here. We'll say yes to this one. Then we have to answer all of the HIPAA related questions for that. But we're going to go back and select no, and we're going to click next. Now we're ready to submit the application. So we're going to go back and try to show a few more things here. And I want to go back. I'm going to just click here and go to general and information. And from this page, I want to show how we actually add information if there were a reliance that were involved with this actual study. We will say other external reliance here. Now, once we've done that, we will say yes here, and we will say the names of the other sites. Let's go DOB University, Dr. Smith. DOP University is again the IRB that we're going to be working with. All right. PI's name here, Dr. Paul Smith, their FWA. And we would attach all of these items here. You have to attach them one at a time. I'm going to just attach one. And in this case, I'll do my test attachment again. And from here, I can name it and I can say it's whatever, it's a contract agreement, a consent form, whatever it might be. And we can say reliance agreement, or we'll just say reliance agreement. We'll put that there. All right. From there, that'll be everything that you have to do for reliance. There's some additional questions that come up in regards to sharing who the point of contact is if that is not the PI that's named above. So we would follow up with you on that. Then you would just work your way through the application to identify everything else that you would need to address there. So I'll pause here and then we're going to entertain any questions. I'm going to go back to the landing page here. So one more, start with the eIRB. Now I'm going to show how we would do a modification. So if I want to do a modification, obviously that's an already approved project. So I'll click on projects from here. I'm going to go here into this project here. I'm going to go start X form over here on the left. Once I go here, I'm going to go ahead and put in, we don't want to use this one. This isn't a good example. Sorry about that. Let's go back and try this one. All right, here we have all of the options here for this actual application. And we talked about doing the amendment form. So we'll go here. This, we would just verify all this information is correct. We would identify a quick summary of what the change is. Let's say it's a new consent form. Changes in procedures. And then we would say it affects the consent form and whatever else might be applicable. Because there's a new document, we need to find that. What type of document it is, the consent form, and then we attach. All right. Do you have subjects enrolled with previous consent? I would say yes. Let's say yes. Or consent plan will at next visit. We will do blah 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 blah. Whatever it might be that you need to change to make that work. Following that, you just go right here, and then you would be able to submit this application to the next stage. Going to go back here again, and I'm going to go back another stage here. Again, we're in projects. I'm going to go into my project. I want to go to start X form. Next, I want to show you the annual check-in. For those studies that don't have continuing reviews, annual check-ins will be required. And we're going to click in this one. You would verify all this information is still accurate here. And then we would answer the questions correctly according to where your status of your project is. Let's say for this one on this check-in, we're still going with data collection and enrollment of subjects. Let's say there were no changes, but if there were, you would get a pop-up to submit an amendment form. But let's say no, there haven't been any changes. Then we would click next here. And then we're good to submit. And it was just that easy to do the actual amendment form. Then I'll go back one more again, go into your projects. I'm going to go into my test project and I want to start another X form. And in this case, we're going to do a continuing review. And for the continuing review, we simply verify all this information here is correct. And the next thing we want to do is identify the status of the project. If it is paused or completed, you're going to get a prompt here to close it out. Not pause, but de-identified. You're going to get that prompt as well. Study closure, pause, won't get it. And enrollment won't require it either. So we are going to say that enrollment is complete, but it's still going on. We're going to say there are no identifiers here. We will say no one has been removed. Have there been any funding changes? If you have, you would just indicate those there. Last approval date. Were there any changes to the study? We'll say no, they were not. And then we have to explain. If we say yes, that goes away. We provide a narrative of what's going on. So we'll just come here and say X, Y, Z. Yes, it did involve people. We'll say no to this one. Let's say we have 23, we have 30, 45 there. We'll say, if we say yes, we'll just have to explain, but we're going to come back and say no. Withdrawals to this. No, no one else withdrew. Problems with recruitment. There were no problems with recruitment. We'll say no. If we say yes, then we're going to get prompted to answer some additional questions about have you submitted the reporting form. If the answer to this is no, it starts to dig in a little bit deeper, but we will say no to this first question and those others go away. And have there been any deviations? We'll say no to this one as well. Next one, see. Say no to this one. And NA, that's the correct response there. Let's say you got a complaint, whatever that might was, you just explain it here. Let's say there hasn't been any relevant information. We would say no here. We'll explain something, X, Y, Z. Now, that's it for the continuing review. Then we will just submit that and move forward. We're going to go back one again. What we have next, we're going to do a start a next form here. And let's go to a study closure. I want to do study closure next. Here, verify all this information is accurate. Once we verify it's all accurate, we'll say the project is completed. You know, just that simple. Everything's completed. And then we enter a date. We'll say was the first, and number of participants enrolled, 122. Describe X, Y, Z, and next one. Yes, data are de-identified. There were no unanticipated problems. Final summary. This is what happened. And from there, we just submit it and the study's closed. I mean, it's a done deal there. So the last one we're going to go over is, I believe this one is going to be the, let's see, start next one. There's only one left, reportable events. Verify all the information here is accurate again, as always. Let's say, has this been reported? It hasn't been reported to anyone. If we're going to get first to the eIRB, it hasn't been gone to the safety board, or you, and let's say you don't have one, you go in A. We haven't reported to the FDA if it did apply. Let's say it's been reported today. My awareness was the first. And where did it happen? UTRGV. What's that affected 2 participants? Project's ongoing. Here we can select which we would like to address with this reportable event. And there's guidance on each individual one. So if we say it's a serious adverse event, guidance pops up. The red identifies examples to go along with each of the actual options there. Same thing pops up if you do unanticipated problems. We have slightly different examples for each one. Protocol deviations. They have the guidance and examples throughout as well here. Adverse events. I'm going to leave it as adverse events and then walk through this submission process with you now. Next, what we would do is we would say physical symptoms. We'll just say yes. Emotional distress, we'll say no. Breach confidentiality, let's say yes. And socioeconomic harms, we'll say yes to that too. And we'll say no. Then you describe what happened in the event, X, Y, Z. And what you're going to do, we will do whatever. Now, moving forward from here, we identify the next question here to eliminate the risk. X, Y, Z again. If there is any risk, but we'll say no here and A. Play potential, the participants continue with the research, not a big deal. And you click next, as we do all the time, and now you submit. So that is essentially how all of the applications work. And I hope that was seamless. And please feel free to address any questions or concerns that you may have as you may have them. You can follow up with me at any time via email or at the next session. The next session will be very similar to this. I might pick some other random options, but outside of that, it's going to be the same. I would like to thank all of you for your time and attention today. I look forward to seeing you soon. I hope you enjoy the new system.